Hi, welcome to the Azure DevOps Project Management step-by-step video tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to create epics, features, product backlog items, and break it up into various tasks. We are going to learn how to create teams and add members. We will learn to set up release and sprint cycles for our Scrum project. We will learn how to query work items, create charts based on those queries, create custom dashboards, and a few other things like integrating with Excel, creating your own process templates, using the task board, customizing notifications, customizing columns, and a few other things. First, let us learn what is Azure DevOps. For any software project, we need three things. Every software project needs a project management tool, a place where we can gather the requirements, break it up into various tasks, and assign people and monitor those tasks. Every software project needs a project management tool. So this is the focus of this particular video. But Azure DevOps can do other things too. Every software project needs a source control or version control tool. So what exactly is a source control tool? When multiple developers work on the same project, they will save their code, their programs into a central place called a repository. The source control tool will maintain who made what changes, and it will maintain the history of the code changes. Every software project needs a source control tool which will maintain the history of who made what changes to which file. Every software project needs a build and deployment tool. So what exactly is a build and deployment tool? Creating a software project is like putting together a puzzle. Every developer creates one piece of the puzzle, and in the end all these pieces are combined together as one software and deployed to a server, which serves the software. So every software project needs a build and deployment tool. So we need these three tools for any software project. Azure DevOps by Microsoft is like a 3-in-1 tool. It can do all three. In this video, we will learn the project management tool. And if you're a developer, I will create another video for the source control tool. Hope you love it. If you don't have an Azure DevOps account, all you need to do is create a Microsoft account and you can get a free trial version of Azure DevOps. So let's go create an Outlook.com account. I'm going to create an account. So once you created an Outlook or any Microsoft account, you can go search for Azure DevOps and select this link. And you can have a trial version of Azure DevOps. Just click on Start Free, log in, so here you can go create a project. So let's give a project name. If you do not see this page, you will always see something called as Create Project over here. You can click on the button called Create Project. Let me give this project as Patrick Video's Test Project. Now you can decide, do you want this to be a public project or a private project? A public project is anyone can come and work on this particular project, but we want to keep our projects within our organization. Only those whom we invite should be able to come here. So I'm going to leave it as private project. Now we can click on Create Project and the project has been created. Let's go back to this Azure DevOps. At any given point of time, if you want to create additional projects, you can click on Azure DevOps here on the upper left-hand side corner. And you can click on Create Project. Let us give another project. I'm going to call this the Patrick Videos project. If you want, you can give a description about this project. This project is to learn project management. This is a private project. Let's click on Advanced. And over here, let us drop down this particular box and select Scrum. So we are going to use the Scrum template. The version control can be Git or TFS, but this is mostly for developers, so let's leave it as Git. But the work item process would be that of Scrum. Now let's click on Create. So the Patrick Videos project is a Scrum project, whereas the Patrick Videos test project is not a Scrum project. Make sure you select the Patrick Videos project, which is the Scrum project. Now that we are in our project, the first thing you will have to do is click on your initials here on the upper right hand side corner. Click on Preview Features and make sure that you turn on all of these features. So this way you will always get the latest updates from Microsoft. You're working on the newest features. And then you can close this. So we will be working on the latest Azure DevOps features. The next step is to invite people to our project. Now there are two ways to invite people to our project. The simplest would be to click on the invite right here. You can click on invite and then you can send an email to that particular person, inviting them as members of this project. So I'm going to invite and I'm going to add a particular person's email address and I'm going to click on add. So like this, you can invite multiple people or a group. So after inviting a bunch of people, I can always take a look at who are all in this team by going to the project settings at the lower left-hand side corner. Click on project settings, click on teams, and you can go and look at this particular team. There are 2 people in this team. If I want to add more people, I can click on add. And I can refresh right here. So like this, I can add multiple members to a particular team. Now, what kind of access do these particular teams have? Click on Security. And you can see that there is a team with these members. There are 4 members of this particular team. To give access to them, you can decide, okay, for the project admins, I can click on project admins. I want Alex Rod as the project admin and maybe Patrick Videos as a project admin. So these 2 people will be project admins. After you add, make sure that you click on this refresh button if you're not able to see that. So these 2 people are project admins, and everyone else in this particular team can be just contributors. So you can see that not only can you add individual members, you can also add teams. At any given point of time, you can create new teams. You can go to teams right here, click on new team, and then create a new team of members, and here you can give them what type of access you need. Like for example, I can say stakeholders. They'll just simply be readers of this particular team. I'm going to create a team. And for stakeholders, I can remove Alex Rod and I can add Patrick.NewYork as the stakeholder. So like this, you can go create multiple teams, and for each and every group, you can go specify who are the members of this particular group. So you can click on a group, you can click on members and add a team or a particular member. If you look at permissions, it will tell you like what can these group members do? What can project administrators do? They can do all these things. Contributors can only do a few things. Readers can do much less. Once you have created the teams and you have given them access control, like you have named them as project admins or readers or contributors, Once you have done this, the next step is to create the Scrum lifecycle. So in a Scrum lifecycle, a Scrum is nothing but you have multiple releases and sprints. So we need to set up these releases and sprints. So how do we go set up these release and sprint cycles? For a project, a release happens like once in few months, and a release is split up into multiple sprints, and a sprint happens like say once in 2 weeks. A sprint is a short duration milestone. So every 2 weeks you may have a sprint, and for every 4 sprints you may have a release. So how do we go set it up? In Azure DevOps, click on Project Settings, click on Project Configuration, and it comes with some default sprints. What we can do is we can go delete these sprints. You have to click on this dot 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 symbol and click on delete. Let us delete these sprints. And now we can create our own iteration. Make sure that you are under iteration. Select this main Patrick Videos project and let us create a new child item. And we can say, let's say our first release is in April 2019. The start date is today and it ends in, let's say, April 19th. Click on Save and Close. Now under this release, we can have multiple sprints. Let's say we're going to have one sprint for every 2 weeks. So I'm going to select this release 1, click on New Child. The sprint is going to start on 16th and end on 29th. Click on Save and Close. And the next sprint, let us select release again, New Child, sprint 2 is going to start on April 1st and it's going to end on April 12th. And let's click on Save and Close. So like this, we have created iterations. You can create any number of sprints right here. Next to this iterations, you have something called as areas. For every team, there would be usually an area. We have teams like Patrick Videos project, and then we had a stakeholders team. So for every team, you can have an area. So what exactly is an area? So let's go back to project configuration, areas. You can create any number of areas, but basically an area is when you gather requirements, you want to put those requirements, you want to segregate those requirements. Just like when you gather requirements and you want to store it to your hard disk, you wouldn't store all your requirements in one folder. You'll usually put them in different folders. So you can imagine areas as like folders in this particular project. You can create any number of areas if you want. Usually every team will have their own area. So let's keep these areas as it is. Now that we have created all these iterations and we have some areas, the next step is to make sure these iterations are available for the team. And how do we make them available for the team? Click on Team Configuration. If you don't know how to get to the screen, click on Project Settings and click on Team Configuration. And in Team Configuration, make sure that the backlog involves epics, features, backlog item. Make sure that these are all selected. The working days are Monday to Friday, or if you work Saturdays, you can select Saturday too. Once this is done, click on Iterations. Click on Iterations. It should take you to the screen. If it doesn't take you to the screen, make sure that you click somewhere else and come here and select this Iterations. And over here, click on the plus iterations and select under Release 1, the Sprint 1, click on Save and Close, and the Sprint 2 that we created. So select all the iterations that you will be working on right here. So select all the iterations that your team needs to work on over here. So it is not enough if you have the iterations set up in project configuration. You should also make sure that those iterations are available in team configuration. You have to go to team configuration, click on iterations, Sometimes it doesn't work. I have to click on areas and come back to iterations, and make sure that you select all the sprints that you want your team to see. So once you have created your team and you have created the release and sprint cycles, the next step is to go create an epic, and then we will split up an epic into multiple features, and then we'll split up a feature into multiple user stories, and then we will split up a user story into multiple tasks. If you're not very familiar with these terms, an epic is a requirement that takes multiple releases to complete. That means it takes many months to complete. So here you can see that an epic takes many months to complete or multiple releases to complete. An epic is usually divided into multiple features, and a feature is a requirement that take multiple sprints to complete. It cannot happen within a 2-week sprint, but it will take multiple sprints, but within one release. That's usually a feature. A feature usually takes multiple weeks or multiple sprints. A feature is then further divided into user stories. A user story is a requirement that can be completed within one sprint. So here you can see that an user story is completed within a few days. A user story is usually divided into multiple tasks, and a task is a requirement that is usually done by one team member, and it will take them like a day or two to complete. It's usually measured in terms of hours. So an epic is like a huge requirement that take multiple releases to complete. An epic is usually split up into multiple features, and a feature is then usually split up into multiple user stories, and a user story is usually split up into multiple tasks. So let's go learn how to create all these things. So here, let's go to our project in Azure DevOps. At any given point of time, if you're lost, you can always click on Azure DevOps right here and select your project. Let's go to the boards. On the left hand side, let's click on boards and select work items right here. Here click on new work item and select epic over here. So now we are going to learn how to create an epic. Let's give any title for this epic. So imagine we are going to create a new time and labor application. So let's give the epic title as time and labor application. So we are going to create a new time and labor application. Now it is not a rule, but it is usually a good practice to have an acronym in front of this particular epic, in front of any epic. It is a good practice to have an abbreviation or an acronym in front of epics. It makes searching easy later on, like something like this. So TALA is the acronym or abbreviation for time and labor application. Now this particular acronym, I will use it not only for this epic, but every feature that comes under this epic and every user story and task that comes under this epic. This is not a rule, it's just good industry practice. So that later on, if you feel like I want to search all the things under this epic, I just have to say TALA in the search field and I'll get everything under this epic. An epic is usually not done by one person, but usually one person is in charge of the epic. Usually a senior manager or a team lead or the senior most business analyst is usually in charge of the epic. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, Alex Rod is in charge of this particular epic. And here for this add tags is very similar to if you have used Twitter or Instagram, you can have tags. Tags is an easier way to search. You can create any number of tags. You can use an existing tag or you can create new tags, just like Instagram and Twitter. Like I'm going to say, I'm going to use this acronym as a tag, press enter. I'm going to say learn Azure DevOps. So like this, you can create any number of tags, just like Instagram and Twitter, so that later on people can search by tags. There is not much choice for state and reason when you're creating a new epic. It is a new epic and the state is new. Later on, once we save it, we will be able to see different drop downs over here. The area, we are going to leave it as Patrick Videos project. That's the main place this epic is in. And for iteration, usually an epic is not completed within a release. It takes multiple releases to complete. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it as under Patrick Videos project. Let's leave it right here. So for description, here you can give the description of that epic. Let's type in something. So I'm going to say create a new time and labor application for our organization. These things are just like a Word document. You can bold them, you can have italics, underline, and so on. And if you want like a larger space to type in, if you're not comfortable with this small box, you can click on this arrow button right here, maximize description, and then you can minimize description here. You can also insert pictures or links over here. Let's minimize this. For acceptance criteria, you can specify when is this epic considered done. So you can say like, okay, this epic is considered done when all the requirements are completed and all the unit test cases are completed, etc. So once we have some description and acceptance criteria, the discussion is just like Twitter and Instagram. Whenever you create something, a post, if you want to notify someone saying that, hey, I have created this, if you want to notify one person or the entire team, you will have to tag them, right? So how do you do that? You use an @ symbol at Twitter and Instagram. So similarly, you can do that. I want to notify someone called patrick.newyork@outlook.com saying, check this out. So when I save this, they will receive an email saying that, okay, an epic has been created and they will be notified. So you can usually notify the entire team saying that, okay, I have created an epic. Now you guys can go and create features or user stories under this particular epic. You can have a start and end date for an epic. So I'm going to give a start date. Usually epics don't have an end date most of the time because it takes multiple releases. So we may not have a target date. So these are all optional. So I'm going to leave it as empty. Priority is like, okay, how important is this particular epic for the organization? 1 is considered to be high priority and 4 is considered to be a low priority. So I'm going to say, okay, this is a priority of 3. And effort is, epics are usually measured in user story points. Like how difficult is it to complete this epic? It usually follows the Fibonacci sequence. In a big organization, for an epic, they usually don't give any kind of user story points for epics. They give points for user stories, but for epics and features, they avoid giving user story points. But if you feel like you need to give some points, you can specify that right here. I'm going to leave the rest of these boxes empty. It's like you can specify what is the business value and how critical is this epic over here. In a typical organization, they don't really bother to fill up these information for an epic. So this is like a business value area or a design value area. I'm going to leave it as business. If you have any kind of a documents to attach, you can go here on the right hand side. You can click on the attachment and you can attach a document for this epic. These other 2 things, we will come back to it later on. So let's go back to details. So now that I have written something for the epic, let's click on save. When I click on save, it would have created the epic.